For centuries, the Mongol-Tartar yoke has been presented as a foundational event in Russian history, a period of foreign subjugation that shaped the nation's destiny. But what if this cornerstone of historical understanding was, in fact, a carefully constructed fiction? This is the provocative gateway to a far larger and more controversial theory proposed in this book, the issue with Mongols. Its authors, Anatoly Fomenko and Gleb Nosovsky, are not historians, but accomplished mathematicians and physicists. Fomenko is a full member of the Russian Academy of Sciences and a laureate of the National Premium of the Russian Federation in Mathematics. Nosovsky is a specialist in physics, mathematics, and computer modeling, with a background in space research and academia. The book's central argument is the complete reinterpretation of the Mongol-Tartar invasion and the subsequent yoke. According to Fomenko and Nosovsky, this event was not a foreign conquest, but a pivotal moment in an internal Russian power struggle. This reevaluation serves as the primary case study for the new chronology, where the authors dismantle the traditional narrative and replace it with a version that aligns with their thesis of a unified Russian horde. A cornerstone of their argument is a redefinition of key terms. The authors claim that the words Mongol and Tartar have been fundamentally misinterpreted by traditional historians. The word Mongol, they argue, did not refer to an ethnic group from modern-day Mongolia. Instead, it was derived from the Greek word Megalian, meaning Great One, and was used to describe the vastness of the empire. The Mongol horde was not a foreign invading force, but was, in fact, the professional Russian army of the old Russian dynasty. The term Tartars did not denote a specific ethnicity. Rather, it was a term for the cavalry, acting as a synonym for Cossacks. If the Mongol horde was the Russian army, why was the story of a brutal foreign invasion invented? Fomenko and Nosovsky propose a political motive rooted in the 17th century. They assert that German historians, employed by the new Romanov dynasty, created the yoke theory to serve a specific political purpose, to demonize the old dynasty's fiercely loyal army, the horde, by recasting them as savage invaders, thereby legitimizing the Romanovs' own claim to the throne. This redefinition of terms, they argue, was the key to fabricating a narrative of foreign subjugation, where there was, in reality, only civil war and dynastic change. With this framework in place, the authors turn to their most detailed piece of evidence, a re-examination of the most famous battle of that era, the Battle of Kulikovo. The Battle of Kulikovo, 1380, serves as the flagship example of historical and geographical misinterpretation. The authors use this single event to demonstrate multiple facets of their theory, from the nature of the conflict and the identity of its participants to its very location, which they argue has been misplaced by hundreds of kilometers. According to Fomenko and Nosovsky, the battle was not a national liberation struggle against foreign invaders, but a large-scale civil war within the Russian horde. Their analysis of the forces involved reveals a complex internal conflict. The army of the Russian prince Dmitry Donskoy included Tartars from the Volga and Siberia. The opposing army, led by the military commander Mamai, was composed of Crimean, Polish, and Genoese forces. The Zadonshchina, a key chronicle of the battle, explicitly refers to the Russian troops from the Vladimir Suzdal region as the horde from Zalesye. The authors highlight a direct quote, "Mamai, thou foul foe, why have you come to the Russian land? Now thou shalt be crushed by the horde from Zalesye." The authors further identify Mamai not as a foreign Khan, but as the Russian military commander, Tisyatsky, Ivan Velyaminov, who had betrayed Dmitry Donskoy. They argue this identification is cemented by a crucial linguistic link. Mamai's traditional title was Temnik, and Velyaminov's was Tisyatsky. Both titles, they contend, translate to leader of thousands, making them functionally identical and pointing to a single individual. The theory's most radical claim is its geographical revision. While traditional history places the battle in the Tula region, south of Moscow, the authors argue that it was fought in what is now the center of modern Moscow. They support this by matching geographical names from the battle chronicles with existing toponyms in the city. Fomenko and Nosovsky present a range of material evidence to support their Moscow-based reconstruction of the battle. Archaeological findings. They contrast the complete lack of significant findings, mass burial mounds, weapons, at the traditionally accepted Tula site with the discovery of mass graves in Moscow. Chaotic, large-scale burials have been unearthed at the Old Simonov Monastery and the Andronikov Monastery. The remains found at the Old Simonov Monastery were predominantly those of young, healthy men, consistent with warriors, buried without coffins, and marked by uniform headstones featuring forked T-shaped symbols, which the authors identify as a form of Christian cross, but with no inscriptions. They also find it very suspicious that when these 14th century graves were unearthed, summoned archaeologists showed no interest and instantly departed. Artistic depictions. An analysis of the Yaroslavl hagiographical icon of Saint Sergei of Radonej, which depicts the battle, reveals two crucial details that contradict the traditional narrative. Both the Russian army of Dmitry Donskoy and the Tartar army of Mamai are shown fighting under identical banners featuring the Christian Sudarium, the image of Christ. The army of Dmitry Donskoy is clearly depicted using a battery of cannons, suggesting a level of military technology not typically associated with 14th century Russia in conventional histories. The analysis of the Kulikovo battle exemplifies the author's method of identifying patterns and duplicates, a technique they apply not just to events, but to the historical figures themselves. A core method of the new chronology is the identification of supposedly distinct historical figures as phantom duplicates, different names and stories that, according to the authors, all refer to the same person. They achieve this by identifying dynastic parallels and, crucially, by tracing perceived linguistic and etymological similarities between names. For example, arguing that Rurik, Yuri, and Georgi are variants of the same name. This merging of identities is central to their effort to shorten the historical timeline. In the issue with Mongols, they present several key re-identifications that redraw the lineage of Russian and Mongol rulers. Georgy Danilovich of Moscow equals Genghis Khan equals Ryurik. Ivan Danilovich Kalita equals Batu Khan equals Yaroslav, the Wise equals Caliph. Simeon the Proud equals Alexander Nevsky equals Burka Khan. Dmitry Donskoy equals Toktamish Khan. These equivalences transform the narrative of a foreign conquest into a history of a single, continuous Russian dynasty, known at different times by different names. The issue with Mongols presents a thesis that argues that the Mongol horde was the professional Russian army. The Battle of Kulikovo was a Russian civil war fought in the center of Moscow, and that the conventional history of the era is a political fabrication crafted centuries later.